This is my trusty Roland Cube Street that I've had for 7 years, and this is my new Boss Katana Air that I've had for about 6 months, and this video is about comparing them and which one might be right for you if you're considering getting one of the two. This amp has been through more than I've ever put any piece of gear through. It's been to Burning Man several times, it's fallen out of a truck onto asphalt, tumbled around in the back of a van with tour gear, it's been rained on, it's had dust blown in the input jacks. I've been missing the battery cover since 2011. It just keeps going. So all things considered, it's a very reliable piece of gear and I've gotten a lot of use out of it. It's enough volume for playing like a cocktail hour at a wedding or something, playing a coffee house, solo acoustic guitar, that kind of thing. I have played gypsy jazz gigs with this, so like acoustic guitar with another acoustic guitar, bass, and violin. It's not quite enough volume to play with a drum set, but I've made that work. If you put it on top of a table and put the table in front of the drum set, you can kind of get that effect. It's got 2 channels, and one of them is the microphone channel that you can also plug a 1/4-inch jack into like a guitar. 2-band EQ, just bass and treble, delay, reverb, and then the volume knob. This is where you get the most volume out of the amp. So just plugging my nylon string guitar into this, I get enough volume to play for, I'd say 100 people I've played for. For this channel, the amp modelers and everything, you get some good sounds out of it, but not as much volume as this. The mic channel really pushes the cab like it's an amp, like it's an acoustic amp. The channel with the modelers in it is more for practicing. This thing has been a beast as long as I've been using it, and it has completely replaced the Roland as my at-home practice amp, because the convenience of being able to use this wireless thing, just plug it into your guitar and walk around your room, sit in front of the computer, not worry about cords getting tangled up. That's actually really big for me. This amp really shines for low volume emulation of high volume, high gain playing. So the lead channel is really good sound. If you're into the distorted kind of sound, the delay and the reverb built in, you just get a really solid lead rock tone out of it. It has a channel called Brown, which is supposed to be like the Eddie Van Halen kind of sound. It's much more high gain. When I plug my acoustic guitar into this, it's crystal clear, but it's not the same as the Roland. The Roland sounds more like a real acoustic amp. This sounds more like an acoustic guitar that's already been recorded and playing back. So it's not quite as transparent the way you would spend a lot of money on like an AER or one of those amps to get, where you hear every little thing. But it's a very clean, polished sound for acoustic guitars that I think is really useful. There's just no competition between these 2 cabinets. This has 2 speakers. This has 2 speakers, I think, but they're tiny. And the extra box that you get here, the extra space in that box, it makes a difference in projecting the sound. The recording situation is pretty easy. There's just one cable that you run out of the amp into the USB of your computer. The Bluetooth has been a little bit finicky, hooking my phone up to this or pairing my laptop with it. I don't think there's something wrong with it, it's just Bluetooth is always finicky and this amp is no exception with that. The Roland amp doesn't have Bluetooth at all. One thing that's a little frustrating is this wireless adapter, there's only one piece to it. The other piece is built into the amp. So this sends, the amp receives. If you put a pedal board in front of the amp, you have to plug this into the pedal board and still run a cable between your guitar and the pedal board. So it would have been nice if there were 2 pieces of the wireless adapters where you could put one in your guitar, one in the pedal board, and have that wireless connection, and then run the pedal board into the amp with a cable. That way you'd still be free with your guitar. The way it is right now, you're kind of stuck with the sounds of the amp. which is okay. Kind of depends on what you're doing with it. So let's see how these two sound using an electric guitar. This guitar is my Jackson Minion. I love it. I'm gonna do a separate video on this, but this is what I'm gonna be using to test both of them, because if I used an acoustic guitar, you'd be hearing that too. I want you to just hear the amp. So this is with the EQ set flat, all the knobs at 12 o'clock. I'm on the clean channel with the gain at 12 o'clock and the volume pretty close to all the way up. Reverb at about 10 o'clock, master volume 12 o'clock. So this is pretty much straight tone of the amp with just a little bit of reverb. Here is the acoustic setting. It's not that acoustic, but if you plug an acoustic guitar in, it sounds good. At least it's not that like scratchy, fake acoustic sound that you get from acoustic simulator pedals. This is the crunch channel. Here's the lead channel. I'm going to add in a little bit of delay. And here's the brown sound. This is the setting I use the most. Neck pickup, tone knob about halfway down, clean channel with the gain halfway, mids boosted a little bit, treble cut a little bit. Here it is in the electric guitar channel with the no amp simulator on. It's called just instrument. This is the jazz chorus amp. Here's the Fender sounds. First of all, when the amp turns on, you get Bluetooth immediately enabled, and that causes static. And I think that's made some people return the amp because they think it's defective. I don't know if you'd call it a defect or not, but it sounds crackly. So you have to turn the Bluetooth off after you turn the amp on before that static will stop. The fatal flaw that this amp has is that there's no direct out. So you can't plug this into a PA system and still have sound coming out of this. You actually, as far as I know, you can't really plug it into a PA system at all. There's a headphone jack, but that's not going to cut it. So while this is a great practice amp and it's good for busking on the street, you know, if you're going to do that, or little things like that, it would be fantastic if you could just use this as a preamp to run into a PA system so that you plug your guitar into this, you take this to the gig, there's a PA system set up because the singer is going to be singing through it, the drummer's going to be amplified, whatever. And this would be all you need. You just run this into the PA, and then your sound would be coming out of the PA speakers and back at you through the monitors, or you could still hear sound through this and use it as a monitor. But you can't do that. And that's just like, I don't know why they didn't include that. It seems like such a basic thing to just include a direct out. Most little acoustic amps have that. So it really limits the application for this. The Boss has a similar problem. There is like the recording out, but it's not the right kind of output that you're gonna send to a PA system. And the headphone jack is a 3.5 millimeter aux cable. So everything that comes out of this amp is not XLR or quarter inch. So you can't really use this amp for that purpose either. And it just seems like why didn't they do that? For both of these amps, for any of these little amps that are marketed as travel amps, as practice amps, whatever, it's like, if you're a gigging musician who wants something on the road, how useful would that be to just have a little practice amp that you can put in your backpack, and that's your amp for the performance too, because all you need is the right sound going into the PA system, and the system will make it as loud as it needs to be. So I hope on future versions of these amps we'll see more of that stuff. Here's the British combo. So I think you can hear the volume differences between the two. This is definitely louder. More clean headroom. At the end of the day, I use the Boss more now because it's so convenient to have the wireless thing when I'm at home. I still use the Roland for acoustic gigs if they're small, if I'm not playing with a loud band or in a loud place. The Katana is great for a practice amp, but really you can't go wrong with either one of them. Another thing to keep in mind is that the Cube Street is more like $250, the Katana is more like $400. So almost twice the price. That's what you pay for the wireless capacity. So how useful that would be to you, you gotta make up your mind about that. But the fact that the Katana can fit in a backpack, like literally, and you can just go for the weekend, you put clothes in your backpack, you put the amp in your backpack, maybe you have a travel guitar on your back, that's your whole setup. That's pretty convenient too, and you can't really do that with this guy unless you have like a massive hiking backpack, and that's another story. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned because I'm going to be doing more videos on small guitars because that's what I've been really liking recently. Small stuff. Small amps, small guitars, small everything.